I was born for his service. He filled me with purpose. Take your time while you worship him. I'm unplugged from the matrix. Believe without seeing, I'm plugged into the matrix. The Daley Perspective. Welcome to another episode of the Daley Perspective podcast. I am your host, Mr. Daley, and alongside with me, I have my co-host, Dr. Terrence Johnson. And we are here with episode 7. And for those of you that have seen episode 6, you'll notice that I made a bit of a rookie mistake. I introduced it as episode 5, but I realized once it went up there, it was episode 7. So episode 6, sorry. So my apologies. Some of you might hit that, turn that off because of thinking you were on the wrong episode. But no, episode 6. So this is episode 7. And before we get into it, Terrence, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm good. So this has been one of the weeks where we've caught up, but we haven't caught up like we normally would. So what's been happening in your world?
So I mean, it's been some good things. We had a collaboration with a nonprofit that we finalized. So we created a journal for them, for 6th grade students.
Oh yeah,
so that's done, and so we're happy about that, and been getting back into book stuff. So I got some mock-ups of some stuff with that as well. So yeah, just doing that, and seeing potentially where my next landing spot will be. So okay. So research. Is the journey in Nashville almost coming to an end, or? Maybe so. I have some things in the works, some things I know more about this week. That might be potential. So yeah, so it may be. We'll see. See how the Lord directs and
Okay. I'm looking forward to hearing about that. So
yeah,
I think it's been an interesting week for me since we last caught up. Obviously, I still have my project work in my traditional career. The less said about that, the better.
Okay,
moving on. But that is always a busy period when I'm picking up things in that world. But outside of that, similar to you, the book has been on my mind a lot. Thinking about the contents of the book. Also, from building up the bigger picture of VFit. So myself and Lynette, myself and my wife, we've started to look at the format, the structure of our podcast. So getting ready to, I've been working on the graphics for that, and no one should kill me because I'm not a graphic designer. I just do what I can do, and then when I can afford to pay someone, we'll get it revamped and all of that stuff. But we started to look at the graphics for that. We started to do started to think about content, what that's going to be like, and we're super excited about that. So that's between the book and working on what that's going to shape out to be. It's been an interesting week. Definitely excited. Again, in all that transparency of and this is what I love about our conversation and why I wanted to do this podcast. I think yesterday was probably the hardest day of the week for me. And that's more so it was one of those days where I woke up as though I was under a dark cloud. There was just this immediate heaviness and feeling a bit down spirited, if you know, just feeling like, man, just not energized the way that I normally am. I mean, by the end of the day, I'd worked through the funk, but yeah, yesterday was a tough day now. And I know that, you know, we all have moments like that, especially when you've spent a number of days doing things that are connected to your purpose. And then you know that, hey, there's a time period coming where you then have to step back into your old world before you step back into your purpose world. And that I think naturally in me, knowing that time was coming for that shift over to traditional career, and then immediately my spirit was like, man, we've got to go do that stuff that we don't like. So yeah, so I think yesterday was the first time I actually really recognized it in myself that, you know, that, hey, this thing still hits me. It still slaps me. Just, you know, although I'm doing it for a shorter period of time each week, it's still, I still get that same feeling. So yeah, that was definitely an interesting thing. So yeah, but that's been my week. But I have been super excited about this topic, and so do you want to? Because you decided we were going to do this topic, so I'm going to let you. Yeah. I'm gonna let you give the people the backstory as to how this came about.
Okay, so well, one, before I do that, and I don't know, it'll probably be a setup. But I think eventually you need to go more in depth about what VFit is, so people will know. Because I know.
Okay.
But we can save that for another section. You know, maybe do the promo at the end of it.
Yeah, I'll talk about VFit near the end.
Okay. All right. So going to the topic. So we were having a conversation, and I think it was just about purpose. I think that we were just talking about generally. And then I think we got on the topic of what we kind of wanted to do, or what we felt like our purpose was in life. Yeah. And then you were talking about, you know, how you weren't really concerned about attention for yourself, but you wanted to help other people reach their purpose. And then you like, I'm satisfied being a footnote to somebody's purpose. And I was like, what you just say? And I was like, say that again. You like a footnote. I was like, that's it. I like that. I never thought about that before, but I was like, I understand that, but I think that's a totally, it's a selfless position to be in, to be that for people. And I thought it was unique. I'm all about titles too. And so we thought like, look, before you might have something for next week. I said, but this is what I got on the ballot. I want to talk about a footnote to somebody's purpose. Cause I feel like it's so many different ways. Well, one, I wanted to see like what angle you had for it. But I also have, I thought about another angle too for it. As far as context, I guess, for day-to-day practice, because I think it's a vision part of that, but then I think it's a more practical way to do that too, because some people might feel like, oh, I don't do enough, or I'm not gifted enough to really affect somebody's purpose. And so but it's small things we could each do every day that could fit in that arena or fit in that environment. And so we all have a part to play in each other's progress and growth. And so I think so I'm not going to go too far into it. I'm going to see what you got first, and then I'm going to go with my assistance with the, with the topic after you start. But that's the framework of it. That's kind of, it came from a conversation we had. Yeah, that's where the topic came from.
So I'm glad you pointed out something there about there being a vision aspect to it and then the practical day-to-day aspect to it. Because I don't think, and this is me personally. So I will talk about what I meant when I said a footnote in someone's purpose from my perspective. I have never set out in life to be a footnote in someone's perspective. So that was not my vision. That was not my mission to say that, hey, my purpose is just to help this person achieve their purpose. But what I did realize, and I guess this comes from starting to recognize who I am as a person and really understand the character that God put in me and the personality and the sort of person that I am. And I see it in yourself. I think people that fell into that role of people pleasing, our natural mode of operation is to help people achieve something.
Right.
We are not happy if we see that someone is struggling with something. There was a couple of days ago, I saw someone coming out of a lift, or you guys call that an elevator. So I saw someone coming out here, but I saw someone coming out of I saw someone coming out, and this woman was crying, and it just immediately hit me, and I stopped, and I stopped her, and I was like, "Are you okay?" Now she didn't speak any English, and she just starts to say stuff to me in her language, and I couldn't communicate with her, but I was trying to, get through to her that, are you okay? What can I help in any way? Unfortunately, I couldn't help her. We had but there was that language barrier. But she, I could see she was almost home. She was on her way home. So I stayed a few minutes. She seemed like she calmed down, and then she went on her way. But every time I come across people like that, if I see someone crying, if I see someone hurt, someone lost, someone struggling with something, it does something to me internally. And my natural instinct is to go and try and resolve that. And that's the same in everything that I do. If someone tells me an idea about something, my natural response is to see how I can help them.
All right.
So I started to recognize initially it was abused, and I didn't understand it, and I became a people pleaser. And I found approval. I found approval in pleasing people, having people say to me, "Thank you," or "Well done," "Oh, you're great," "You're awesome," and that. I started to get, you start to get that euphoric feeling from that, and slowly I realized that I was just chasing people's praise rather than really doing what I wanted to do. So learning to change that behavior on a day-to-day basis helped me get back in my lane of I just want to help people. And detaching that from the praise and whatever comes with it allowed me to focus on just helping people. So my vision and my vision for myself is still to achieve my goal, to help as many people as I can to live a truly satisfied, happy, God-centric life. And that's not to go out. Let me qualify that statement. That's not me saying that I'm going to go out there and try and force people to become Christians no. When I say God-centric, the Bible says that God is love. The greatest gift is love. The most, you can do so many works, but if you have never loved, then it was all worthless. So it's all about love. So when I say God-centric, I mean a love-centric life. I want to express the agape love of God to as many people as I can and help as many people as I can, and especially couples. And we'll get back to that when we talk about what VFit is about.
Mm-hmm.
The day-to-day side of things, now that's where the footnote thing came in. Because when I stopped people pleasing, when I stopped trying to chase people's praise and realized that, hey, your gifting is about helping people get in the right position, then it became about, okay, I will get in where I fit in, and I will do what God has created me to do to help this person, and then I'm gonna keep it moving. It's not their purpose or their vision or their goal is not about my praise. It's about them getting to where they want to get to. Now, that person, I may help them with something as simple as putting a structure or a project plan in place or something like that. And then they go on to be something amazing. That's fine, because my purpose, God brought me into their life at a specific time and purpose, or a specific time and place, to help them achieve a simple purpose. And that was for me to help them put some structure in place where they didn't have it. And then so that everything else can then fall into place and happen. It's like a domino effect. But I have to be there at the right time to knock over my domino so the rest of the dominoes can fall over. And that's the way I saw, no one talks about that domino that was in the middle. You might hear people talk about the first domino that started it all off. And then they talk about the last domino, that's the big finale piece. But all the dominoes, all the things that happen in the middle tend to get forgotten. They're the things that you get in the appendices or they're the footnotes. But I am satisfied that being that to someone, it doesn't have to be about me. My goal is just to help them get to where they were supposed to get to, because that may be the purpose of our interaction. That's where it came from for me.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm a
oh, he ready?
Here I come. All right. So one of the things and we talked about it before about people pleasing, and so one of the things I wrote down is to operate effectively in the gift of helping. You have to have a new level of discernment, because being a helper, so I'm saying it specifically the way I'm saying it. So people pleasing is different from being a helper. People pleasing, like you were saying before, has a lot to do about your approval from other people.
Yeah.
Helping is for a specific reason and purpose. And so it's a more intentional help, not a help. So it's a boundaried help. I say that because people pleasing doesn't have boundaries. And that's part of the reason why we get burned out, because we don't have a space to say no, or we have a space, we don't use that space because we feel guilty if we don't say yes to everything that people want us to do. So when you create the space to help, it then creates the space for people that actually need your help to come across your path. So like the lady you were talking about.
Yeah.
If you were so concerned, if just say for instance, if you had that day, somebody else that had called you earlier that morning, say like, oh, David, I need you to do this, can you help me out, do this, da 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 da. You probably would have been in that same situation, but you wouldn't have been focused on the lady. You've been focused on doing something for somebody else. They really didn't need your help. They wanted your help, but they didn't really need it. And you would have missed that opportunity that you had right there to be of assistance. And so I think that's what our lives are kind of centered around. We get so caught up in all these to-do lists and people that want us to do things for them, that we miss the people that actually need us and need the things that we have. And so that was one. So then the other part was, you talked about like your patterns. And so that's one of the things that goes into how you can effectively help people, is once you break your patterns of like approval or being appreciated or validated by people. Because when you actually seek to help other people, people might not approve of who you help. And why you help. so that's a whole other journey. So they were like, oh, well, I'm used to you helping this way. But when I start to operate in the way I should help, everybody might not agree with it, because it might be different, but then it might be people that they don't want. They feel they deem they're not worthy of help. So that's another piece. So then the next one, you kind of talked about it as far as like the dominoes. And so what I thought about when you said that was alignment. And so it's like each one of us has a certain space in people's life to kind of help them get to the next step.
Yeah.
Some of us are at the beginning, some of us at the end, some of us at the middle. But we all play a role in people's growth. And once we know that, then we understand that we shouldn't seek their congratulations of us being in the position we were supposed to be in anyway. And that's what stops a lot of people from really trying to help more, is because, if I help, they ain't even gonna say thank you. They ain't even last time I helped, they didn't appreciate. And so you have to realize that you're just one piece in a long line of other people that have been assigned to that person. And so when you look at it that way, you don't hold as much weight, but you also are one of many. And I think that's the other thing about helping. We feel like we have to take on so much of the responsibility on our own, and we don't have any help. But if you look at it just like that vision you gave, we're all just a domino in people's life. Then if I just do my piece, then that will still get them to the next person or place or whatever resource. All my role is to get them from where they were before me to where they need to be after me. And that's it. Like, and that's my piece. And so I've done what I was supposed to do. I think most people want to say that, oh, I'm all the pieces. And I was responsible for all of it. So it's because of me. This is what happened, and it's not that way. Because it's not that way in our lives either. Like, we didn't get here by ourselves. It was so many little pieces of interaction with people and people that helped us along the way. So we didn't get here on our own. And so I think that's just another aspect to look at it.
So I'm taking you right back. I'm like, let's rewind this tape. So there was something you said that I wanted to explore, because you said the first word you said was discernment. So what did you mean when you said discernment? How does discernment come into, is that discerning whether you are trying to help or whether you are seeking approval? Is that what we need to be discerning of, or do we need to be discerning of the intention of the person that we are trying to help? What angle did you have in mind?
Okay, so you can look at it from two different levels. So one, you can go strictly on a spiritual level of the discernment of it is a good thing or a God thing.
Okay.
And so you can look at it from that.
Because sometimes they're not the same.
Right. They're not the same.
People get it confused, because it may be a good thing. It may still be a good thing, but it may not be a God thing. And sometimes it is a good thing, but it is also if it's a God thing, it will also be a good thing. God will not have you do something bad, but sometimes a good thing is not a God thing.
Yeah. So it ties. So then what you just said, it ties right back into the other piece of it is, if it is, the discernment is, if I do this, will this one be the piece that somebody needs? But then also two, will this help that I'm giving block me from doing something that I would actually need, that God really wants me to do?
Right.
So I could do this and help in this area, but is this the way God wants to use my gifts? And most of the time you can start to get that discernment. If kind of like how you were talking about earlier, is when you're doing the things that, you know, you've accustomed to do, and you could be good at it and do good in it, but your energy, it doesn't feel the same. It's like, it's good thing, but it's not fulfilling to me. So it's almost like, I like food, so I'm gonna go to food. So it's almost like you have a meal, like it looks nice, it's presented nice, you know, the different show to have it plated and have the stuff. It looks nice, but when you eat, it's like, I'm still hungry. I'm still hungry. Like, I want something else to eat. Like, I got like another entree I can get, you know. And I think it's the same way when you're doing something that you feel is good, you can do it, but it doesn't resonate with you in a more beneficial way. So like after you do it, it's like, okay, I did that, but I don't feel anything about it. And versus when you do something, just like with the lady, even though it was a language barrier, it was pieces of that kind of resonated with you. Like, okay, this is something that I felt like I needed to do. Like, okay, I feel kind of fulfilled in that, even though it didn't work out the way I wanted to. It's like, okay, that was something good, you know, that resonated with me. Versus you doing something out of obligation. And I guess that's the discernment too. Is your help out of obligation, or is it from a servant place? Because the people pleasing can get you in the into doing things for obligation.
Yeah.
And that you feel that you have to do. And that's not really you helping from your heart. It's more you helping from your head, because it's the right thing to do. Yeah.
And I think that's funny. It's a good point that you make, because it's funny, as Christians, we have this notion that because we are Christians, whenever anyone asks us to do something, if it sounds like a good thing, we are obligated to do it because it's the Christian thing to do all good things. But we're not. It's, you know, you are not obligated to do every good thing. Not everything that is good is actually good for you.
Right.
So you got to know whether that thing, and that is, I completely understand where you were coming from now with the discernment. You have to be able to discern whether this is something that is going to be nourishing to your spirit, to your growth, to your development, and at the same time, helpful, you know, to the individual. Because sometimes we may go into situations thinking that we're being helpful, and actually, because it's not where we were supposed to be, because we are out of alignment, that thing that we then go into, we actually create a setback for the individual and also for ourselves, because we've we've strayed off our path to go into someone else's path. I think when the thing when it's a God thing, as you say, the paths will naturally cross. So both individuals, both parties will get something out of it. When it's out of alignment, it's a one-way street. So we got to, or it's not even a one-way street. You're trying to make two roads that are parallel cross, and never the two shall meet. So yeah, I get where you're coming from with that.
Yeah. And I guess the other thing I was thinking about too with that, and you were talking about how your help could actually hinder somebody, at certain points, and your help can become somebody's crutch, and you don't want that, because then you're not allowing them to stand on their own. So if they know that they can rely on you, you will be that crutch that people lean on all the time. But if you kind of empower them through the help, then your help is to help them stand and not to lean on you. And so, and I say it a lot. I've said this a lot, but because my background is in the helping profession and being a therapist and counselor for years, I got to a point where I got tired of helping people that was on the floor. And what I mean by that is like people that didn't want to get up. Yeah. So I was going down and trying to lift them up with what I was doing, with the encouragement and everything else, and I was burning myself out. And I said, at this stage of my life, I want people at least in a chair. I can help you from a chair to stand up, but I don't want to pick anybody else off the floor. Now, if you're on the floor, I can you get to the chair, I can get you. But if you still standing on the floor, it's too much, because it's so much effort to get somebody off the floor to get them at least in a chair. Yeah. But if you can be in a chair, if you've been in a situation like, okay, look, I know I got some work to do, but I'm trying. And I'm trying, and I just need some encouragement. I can do that. Yeah. Because that shows a will and desire. But if you just on the floor and you just laid out and you're like, somebody come get me. You're gonna have to stand up. You're gonna have to get in this chair. Get in this chair first before I can help you from the chair to standing. But get in this chair first. So that's kind of been my analogy just for life in general at this stage of my life. Anybody who I come in contact with, I want that level of kind of growth. I'm not saying that everybody be at the same level, but at least be at a level where you can stand, or you're trying to stand, or trying to figure out how to get back to standing instead of just being on the floor. Yeah. No, that's good, because so much of what you said. So I'm gonna go back again, because I've been doing the same thing. I've been making notes. So you said people might not approve of who you help. Mm-hmm. I took it one step further, because when it's a God thing, people may also not approve of how you help. Right. Because we tend to have our own vision of what we see help as. When you interact with someone, the way that the person receiving the help pictures the help, that the way they anticipate the help may be different from the way you envision the help. Okay, say that again. I think that was good. Okay, point. So the way the person that is going to receive the help anticipates the help may not be the same way that you, the giver of the help, envisions the help. Mm-hmm. So we have to understand that sometimes people may not approve of, one, there will be outsiders that won't approve of the person you're going to help. Two, even the person that you are helping may not approve of the way that you are trying to help, because it's not how they anticipated the help. Mm-hmm. But if the two are God-centered, if the help is ordained by God,
they will get the picture. They will get on board. They will understand it. Again, very similar to how we started. We both came into this with two completely different perceptions of how we were going to help each other.
Mm-hmm.
And what we ended up doing was both pulling each other deeper into our individual purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And in a weird way, we still fulfilled that help that we were initially thinking. It was fulfilled along the path. It's just the way that we envisaged it, the way that we both sort of viewed how that help was going to come was not the way that it came. So it's important for people to realize that when it's a God thing, the way that you think it's going to happen may not be how it's going to happen. The other reason, the other thing that I scribbled when you were talking, I was thinking about how I got to a position where I was able to consider myself, how I made it not about me. And it goes back to something that I've said a long time ago. This was the one thing that changed my Christian walk. It changed the way I viewed life. It changed the way I looked at my relationship with my family, with my wife, my children, my friends, anyone that I come into contact with. Once I understood grace and I learned to take my pride out of everything that I do. Now, that's not to say that there won't be moments in life where pride rears its head again, because I'm only human. But generally, and when I deal with someone, I no longer go in there with an expectation of how I want them to respond, because really expectation is one driven by our pride, because we believe that we are deserving of something, but by grace we are deserving. In the same way that Christ, we are saved by grace. We were not deserving of salvation, but it was given unto us. So therefore, if we are to interact with other people in a graceful manner, we have to be willing to bestow something upon them that they are undeserving of. The other part where I say that expectation, the pride element of it is, we have this view that, hey, recognize who I am. So when I'm doing something for you, this is how you are supposed to receive it and acknowledge me. But again, if we move back to that grace picture, you have to learn to take that ego, that self, that pride out of it and say, I'm going to do this for you because this is my purpose. This is what I was created to do. So whether you receive it how you're supposed to receive it, or whether you choose to be disrespectful, I will still give this gift to you because that is what I'm supposed to do. When we get into that position, we're able to do things without ourselves being that focal point, without that people-pleasing element of it creeping into it, because we've dealt with the pride and we're operating from a place of grace. Once we start to operate from a place of grace, being a footnote in someone else's purpose becomes a day-to-day thing for you. You will find out that you are a footnote in hundreds of people's purposes because you've started to recognize that that doesn't diminish your individual purpose. The perfect example I have for that, well, I'm gonna let you go, and then I'll come back to the example that I have for that. So okay. I'm gonna put a pin in it right now.
Okay. Because I just had a point as you were talking. So I was thinking, and you were talking about grace. If we look at God has the most thankless job ever.
Oh yeah.
So if we could have half the grace not even, I don't even say half. If we can have 10% of the grace that he has for us towards other people, then I think we could operate like you were saying.
Yeah.
Because we think about all the stuff God does for us and keeps us away from and forgives us for and all this different stuff. If we really resonated with that, I think it will make it easier for us to do what you were saying, as far as like having more grace towards other people.
Yeah.
Because I think we can be blind to all the things that we need God for, and for him to overlook about us.
Yeah.
so like, I think when you don't have a good perspective of yourself, then it's harder for you to have a correct perspective of other people.
Yeah.
And so if you're, and we talked about it before, like if you're high up on the pedestal, then how do you relate to people that are what you might consider everyday people when you are the same as them, even if in your mind you think you're not? But I also thought back to like when I was doing a lot of more active therapy and counseling and seeing a lot of people. That is also a thankless job.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But I say that in a good way. And the reason I say it is because it teaches you to help with no strings attached. Because I may counsel somebody and may never see them again.
Right.
I may have one interaction with somebody. Maybe I, was in, conduct therapy with them for a year. But after that's done, I have no idea what happens to them after that. Unless randomly, if we cross, at the grocery store or some random place, I never know, because that's just part of the ethics of it. Once it's done, it's done. It's not like you call, former client like you, like
so how you doing today?
Man, what's going on, man? I ain't heard from you about 2 years. Come holler at me.
Call me back.
It's not like that. It's like once it's done and the case is closed, like that's it.
Yeah.
And so I think it taught me to definitely do all I could do for people while they were in my path.
Yeah.
When that was done, then that was done with my assistance for them. And I think that's part of, I think we should be conditioned for thankless help. Of doing things that we won't get a thank you for.
Yeah.
Will we still help if we don't get, and like you were saying before, if we do something and we don't get the reaction that we feel like we should get? Yeah. Or we do something and then the people do something totally different than what we think they should do. Like, you should be appreciative. You should be excited that I did this for you.
Yeah.
And you're not doing nothing, like nothing. So I think that makes the grace that we have for other people not conditioned on the reaction. Because I think that's how we condition our grace with people. Is like, if you act right, if you act like you appreciative, then I have some grace for you. But if I do something you don't appreciate it, then I'm like, nah, I'm through. I'm through with you now because you don't know how to act. And that's how we do. But that's how we do.
Yeah, that's true.
How we do it.
That is how we do. I think I'm going to caveat it with one thing. So we shouldn't get stuck on stupid.
Right. Yeah, that too. Yeah.
And I say that because there are moments, and so when I say that your pride can rear its head again, I'm speaking from experience. People, I can go crazy. I have this tendency in me that I can lose it. I could go a bit la-la, go off the reservation, because I'm one of those people that I don't take kindly to disrespect. I'm very patient. I'm very patient with it. But once I feel someone has disrespected me, I can go from 0 to 100 very quickly. So when I say don't get stuck on stupid, what I mean is if you see that someone is clearly taking advantage of you,
right?
This is where that discernment piece comes in again. Know that that can't be God-centered. That is good-centered. And you are just trying to do a good thing. But that person isn't trying to reciprocate because they aren't on the same page as you. Don't keep putting yourself in that position where that person will continue to do that, because eventually you will snap and you will go from grace-centered to pride-centered and whoop someone's butt.
Yeah, you can put some hands on people.
Yeah, you will put hands on people. Sitting out there waiting in front of their house at 5 a.m. Oh, I'm going to get him.
Yeah.
So, it's you have to recognize when someone is trying to take advantage of you. Recognize when someone is abusing the position that you are in, and just taking you and your help for granted. That is not how a God-centered or God-ordained position would play out. So when I said I had an example of someone who was a footnote in someone's purpose, I actually have two examples. So there is, this one didn't hit me until I'd already sent you my scriptures, so people, my scriptures that I sent to Terrence was 1 Samuel chapter 18, right through to 2 Samuel chapter 1. And that talks about the story of David and Jonathan. And it's the friendship between David and Jonathan. And I believe Jonathan was a footnote in David's purpose. That is the only area where it's mentioned, that story is mentioned. Jonathan and David have this chance meeting, and there is an immediate connection. And they become best friends to the point where it says they loved each other as though they were brothers. And they didn't really get to play out, or we don't get a full historical record of that friendship. But from what we can see, what is documented in the Bible, there is Jonathan's role, or the time they spent together, was cut short. But there was a point where Jonathan was David's protector from Saul. So it appears that Jonathan was brought into David's life to preserve David's life, because David had no other means of getting that information that Saul was truly determined to kill him. David knew, but he had no way of confirming it until Jonathan goes and they make this deal, and Jonathan confirms it that no, my pops is serious. My pops is trying to kill you. So they have this embrace. And that is the last time they see each other again. The next time David hears anything of Jonathan is in 2 Samuel. No, I think it's the last chapter of 1 Samuel, it's the first chapter of 2 Samuel, where he finds out that Jonathan is dead. So it appears that the purpose of that meeting was for Jonathan to preserve David's life. So that was one of the examples. And for anyone, this is the book of Samuel. The whole thing about King David, for me, that is a story that I get lost in, and I could read over and over and over again. So anyone that's really interested in it, please go ahead and read that scripture. That scripture is amazing. It's a phenomenal story. You find out so much about David and why God called David a man after my own heart. The other example that I had is a New Testament one, and it was John the Baptist. Now, the reason why this one came to me was back to what we said at the beginning, because if you look at your purpose as purely being a footnote in someone else's purpose, you may actually miss your true purpose. John the Baptist recognized that his purpose was to usher in the Messiah.
Yep.
But his purpose also meant that he was going to baptize so many people and prepare their hearts for the Messiah. So his purpose was not a small purpose. Yes, it was a footnote when you think about the bigger picture that he was there to usher in the Messiah. It's tiny when you think about what Christ did. But John the Baptist's purpose was a massive thing. It was big. And, John played his role to perfection. There was no ego in it. There was no pride in it. When Jesus came to him, he said, I shouldn't be baptizing you. You should be baptizing me. So he took himself out of it. And John had disciples. It's not like John didn't have his own disciples. John had disciples before Jesus even had the disciples. So John was already walking in his purpose. John's ministry was bigger than, no one had heard about Jesus at that point. So John knew that but he understood his position. He understood that, no, I'm going to stay in my lane and I'm going to baptize as I was called to baptize. And then what happens from there, that's for God to do. But I've played my part. I've got the ball rolling. I've prepared the people. I've helped Jesus step into what God has, I've been that gateway to help him move on to what God had brought him into the world to do. So when we talk about being a footnote in someone's purpose, it's not about diminishing your own individual purpose. Your purpose may still be a very big thing, but along your journey, the different interactions that you have, the different people that you will connect with, God will ordain those crossed paths where you will help someone achieve something. And there will be people who will be footnotes in your purpose because they are brought in to support you at a point where you do not have everything that you need to achieve what you're supposed to. I saw you writing, Terrence.
Yeah. Okay. So you just set my whole next phase up. So, all right. So I'm gonna hit this, and then I'm gonna go and then connect it.
Okay.
So you talking about, because I didn't know you were gonna talk about John the Baptist and Jesus. I had wrote that down as you were talking, so I was like, okay, he going where I'm going to.
Yeah.
But the other piece to it was, are you talking about like those connections ordained? If you go back in time, it was already preordained because when they were in the womb, when their mothers.
Ooh, yes.
So they already knew each other before they knew each other. So they were already in a lineage because they were also kin. They were kinfolk. You know what I'm saying? So that what John and Jesus, that connection was built before they were born. So then when they were born, they started walking in a purpose. And so it wasn't difficult for John to then know his role because he knew also who was coming after him.
Right.
And it wasn't about him. It was about how he was going to continue the lineage, because that lineage had to go all the way, past Jesus and everything else for a particular purpose. So you were talking about also with position. So John knew his position in relation to Jesus. Now, in the time period that they were in, it may have seemed like people thought that John was the Messiah.
Yeah.
But he knew his role, he knew his position, and he knew that what he was doing was preparation for Jesus. So he was like, I can't get ahead of myself, because if I don't do this, then the path can't be laid for him to do what he needs to do. So I got to pave the way. This is my role. So the scriptures I sent you was like, I sent you Hebrews 11 chapter. So that's more about the lineage of people who were called by God to do things that weren't for them.
Right.
So they had purposes that they never got to see. So it brings me to the point of, what if our purpose is for people we'll never meet?
Oh, I like that. That's a very, very interesting point. Go on. You can't don't be doing no doing some cliffhanger figures like dun 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 on the next episode.
Okay. So I'm gonna unpack that. So,
leaving us like some Mexican sitcom.
So I'm gonna unpack that. So we think about current times. So we just take like Martin Luther King, for example. The dream he had wasn't included in that dream. When he made the I Have a Dream speech and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. What he was talking about was a time period after him. So as he talking about things that he would never see. But this is the dream that he had. So that dream is the dream we living in now, but he's not here. And so that then puts more context into why our purpose is important, because of the positioning. Because if we don't position ourselves right, then it's our kids and grandchildren and great-grandchildren that are then affected by our decisions now.
Yeah.
Just going back 3-4 generations or whatever, our ancestors were slaves, or in Africa or wherever else. And they made decisions that were for us, and they never met us.
Yeah.
So our ancestors made decisions for us, and we don't even really know all of them. We don't know their names. We don't know where they came. We don't know a lot about our history removed, because so much have happened to cut us off from it.
Yeah.
So those people in our lives are footnotes, because we don't know them like that. We don't know their names. We don't know their stories. We don't know the sacrifice they had to make, but they are the footnotes in our purpose. So it's almost like, and I don't know if y'all have it too, but some people have family Bibles. They put everybody's name on it, the family tree,
right?
And they have like the big old Bible, just like huge.
Passed down from generation to generation.
Yeah, like a big old Bible.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that's how we are in our like family lineage. So it's things that we'll be doing that our names will be added to that book. But people might not know us by anything but just the name. They're like, oh, that, back in 2020, Terrence did this or whatever like that. Oh, okay, he did. But they don't know us.
Yeah. But
it's things that we're doing now that was for them.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. I'm gonna let you finish, but I'm gonna tell you why I said it's crazy.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you why I said it's crazy.
So if you look at it from that very macro viewpoint, it's a top-down perspective. So it's like if we could zoom out and see ourselves in context of everything else, we're a real small speck in it.
Yeah.
And so whatever we think is so important and so dire right now, or just, oh, we so stressed out about it, whatever, it will not matter as much as the years go on. Because it will be a day where we won't be here and people will maybe talk about it, maybe not talk about it. But it were things that we were doing that's very intentional for the people that will come after us.
Yeah.
And so if we look at it that way, that's how we can be a footnote in the generations to come to set them up to see it. Because if it's certain things that we don't do, they won't see tomorrow if we don't do right by, you know, I'm not even gonna get into climate change and all that kind of stuff. But if we don't take care of our home, we won't have one after a while.
Yeah.
And then that affects them too. So I'll say that because I know you probably got a whole other point. So
I'll
stop right there.
So what is interesting, and again, this is why I said it's funny how God works. Sunday while I was watching the football, and I know your Sunday was just like mine. Our teams both got whooped, man.
I knew my Saint. I wanted them to win against the Packers, but I figured it wasn't gonna happen. So I wasn't too disappointed. I was mad.
I had it on NFL Red Zone, and I was just like, don't even show me the Washington game. I don't care anymore. so whilst the game was on, I was actually messing around on my phone, and I can't remember. Wait, does he play for the Saints? Matt Gono. I can't remember. I'm sure he plays for. Was it the Saints? Anyway, my brother-in-law's surname is Gono. So I was like, oh, okay. So I started to look at the family name to see, like, trying to see if I could connect some dots. Then I put my family name in, my original family name. So I'm not sure if I told you about 7 years ago, I changed my family name. So Daley is actually my dad's forename.
No, I didn't know that.
Oh, right. So I changed. So my family name was Alphalagi. Now I changed it because of stuff that happened. So when you were talking, I was like, because I searched up the original family name, and it's a very, very small number of people that have this family name. So you can trace my original family name right back to the root. So I text my dad, I sent him the links and said, check this out. Really interesting facts. So I called him, or he called me a couple of days later, and then we were having a conversation. And he goes, so I said to him, did you get my text? And he was like, nah, I haven't seen it. Then he looked and he was like, oh yeah. So he started to break down the history to me. And he was like, it was your great grandfather, or your great great grandfather, that changed the family name. So he said, so he said to me, do you understand about Yoruba names? And I was like, no, what do you mean? So he said, so when Yoruba people take on a family name, that family name is a statement. So he then told me the statement that was the family name. And I ain't gonna try to repeat it because I can't even remember what it was. But he broke it down to me. And basically, the statement that brought. So at that point, when my great 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 grandfather changed it, there was a different statement, and it changed it to another statement. And that statement was, we are greater than, and will go on to do greater things than all of you. That was his statement about his family going on from that point forward. So the family name was basically a prophecy of what he wanted for his family. So that then became the new lineage. So when you said, you know, what we are doing, or our ancestors are footnotes in our story, I didn't even know anything about that until now. I then connect to it and I'm like, oh man, so he did that for this. I changed my family name for a reason, and that was to protect my daughters, to insulate them from the racial stereotypes and the systemic racism that they would experience. Because so the whole story was when I'd always experienced this, people immediately knew by seeing my surname that I was of Black descent. They may not know where from, but they knew I was of African descent immediately by seeing the name. Before my wife and I got married, her name was Charles. Her family name was Charles. So by the time they looked at her name, they were like, man, you couldn't tell. And we saw the difference in how she was able to get job interviews and all of those things, whereas all I got was rejection letters. I was just like, nah, we don't want you. so when we got married, and she took on my name, suddenly her opportunities for work fell off a cliff. Then fast forward maybe about, when was it, 2013. So fast forward 6 years after we got married, I think. Yeah, 6 years or so after we got married. No, what am I talking about? I'm way off. 10 years after we got married. There was an incident here where a guy killed an off-duty army officer. And then I started getting text messages and phone calls saying, oh, are you related to this guy? Because his surname sounded similar to ours. So I called my dad and I said, look, I'm sick and tired of all this racial profiling and all this stuff that happens. How would you feel if I changed my family name? But I still want to be connected to the family. So I'm going to take your forename as my family name going forward, so that your lineage is still I'm still connected to your lineage. And he was cool with it. My dad was cool with it. My brother didn't change or anything like that. It was just me. But we had a conversation about it. He was cool with it. But I made that decision to protect my daughters. Now, funny thing is, I'm going to be the last person with this surname because I don't have any sons. It's not like I have anyone to carry the name forward. They will inherit a new name and their journey will go somewhere else. But my decision to make this change will be a footnote in their history. And it's funny how those points come back over and over again. A decision that I made is going to be a footnote in their purpose, because this decision to protect them and to insulate them from racial profiling will open opportunities that they may never have gotten because they would have been racially profiled and blocked from doing certain things. So that was the connection I made when you were talking about some of that stuff. That's a story. That's a whole movie. Like, that's a whole documentary. Like, that's a whole thing. But so it kind of, so and we haven't had this conversation, but I've always wanted to really trace my genealogy back all the way. And I've been doing it off and on for years, and even this year before the pandemic, everything shut down, I was doing a lot of research about our family history.
And one of the things, so the thing about the Johnson name in the U.S. is a very common name, and it's a common Black last name.
Yeah.
In the U.S., but it's that common because it's two sets of Johnsons, and I think they both kind of came from North Carolina, but then they kind of split into two.
Right.
And so one section kind of settled around in the area where we kind of like my family, well, on my mother's side, grew up. Because actually, fun fact about my parents, they were both Johnsons before they were married, but they weren't relation.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Yeah, so that's a fun fact. So so it's a lot of Johnsons, just a lot of Johnsons. But one of the things for us, my mom's side of the family, they all pretty much lived and grew up in the same area, like,
right,
over generations. So, you know, and I don't know necessarily how things are divided as far as like we call them counties here. So like you have the state, and then the state has counties.
Yeah,
you have the cities in the county. So pretty much my mom's side of the family all grew up in one county, pretty much in the same part of the city.
Right.
For like 3 generations.
Right.
For the most part. And so like where we go to church is not too far from where their house was, and it's like everybody was in that same area. But I was able to find like marriage certificates and death certificates for my great grandfather, I think.
Right.
And it had like where he was, you know, who was around him when he passed. And so they all kind of like passed at home around family. And so I know one thing, and it's something that I kind of wanted to go on the journey myself as far as my genealogy. On my mom's side, they have Haitian descent.
Right.
And I've always wanted to go to Haiti to actually see if I could find some of those records. And I know and we both talked about this, and I really had a strong pull to go to Africa. I've never been, but it's just I feel like it's a trip I need to make.
Yeah.
But also it's really it'll be good to, at least by the time I get there, to know exactly like, you know, what country, like in my African heritage, like where did we come from? Like where's the origin?
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's a different feeling when you know kind of where you came from and have a knowledge about that. Because you have a different sense of yourself, but also those people connected to you and what they did and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's definitely. So yeah, you got a whole documentary.
I know. And the funny thing is, everyone seems to be, just because I know that my roots, both my parents are Nigerian, it doesn't necessarily mean that my true genealogy starts and ends in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. Because my great grandparents could have been from Niger, they could have been from Cameroon, they could have been from another West African country. They may even have been from further afield. Mm-hmm. I just don't know. So I've always wanted to take that journey myself, to explore a bit deeper and say, right, you know, who were my ancestors? How far? So similar to you, I've always wanted to explore a bit further because, like you said, and I hate to say this, but I do believe it to a certain extent that to know who you truly are, you have to truly understand where you came from. And that's not to say that you do it to say, oh, now you're going to have this magical light bulb moment of, now I know who I know what I'm supposed to do, who I am, or whatever. When you do it to understand the struggles. You do it to understand the strength. You do it to understand their ambition. To, you know, what sort of people were my people? Why was I fortunate that my family or my genealogy were one of the ones that managed to stay in Africa and weren't? What was so different about us that we were fortunate enough to not be sold into slavery? Could it be that somewhere down that line of my history, we were one of the the people that sold our brothers into slavery? I don't know. But I would be interested to find out more about my history and why were we different? Why were we so fortunate? Why were we so lucky? It's not to say that I'm looking for any justification. It's not to say I'm looking for any vindication of anything or any. For me, it's just this exploration of what sort of people were in my family line. Where do you have those characteristics being passed down? Do we have people who are resilient, who are strong, who are warriors, who, or, you know, are there characteristics that I can say, oh, right, I can see why my line is like this, because this is what they passed down. Just going off what my dad said about my grandfather, I understand a lot more about my dad because not my grandfather, my great-great-great-grandfather, he would have passed down to his son that, listen, I want you to believe that you are greater than everyone and you must achieve. And that same sense of determination and, you know, ambition is something that seems to have been passed down generation to generation to generation. I'm one of these people that I don't go out believing that I am naturally better than everyone else in that sense, but I go out knowing that I can achieve anything I set my heart on. It's the same way I teach my daughters that if you can dream it, then God has given you everything you need to achieve it. That sense of being able to achieve that, it makes sense now when I connect back to the meaning of my original family name. That is what my great-great-great-grandfather believed, that we are destined for great things. So that spirit is passed down in all of us that, hey, we can achieve. And I've got another funny story, and I don't know, I'm conscious of time, so I'm gonna keep rolling. But when I was born, my great-grandfather, he was still alive, and he was old as heck.
Yeah.
But he refused to die until he saw me. So when I was born, so we still lived in my parents still lived in the UK when I was born. And I think it was 6 weeks after I came out of the hospital. No, what am I talking about? It was 2 weeks after I came out of the hospital. So I was in the hospital for 4 weeks in an incubator. Then I believe 2 weeks after that, my parents took me back. They went back to Nigeria, and they took me to see my dad's grandfather, my great-grandfather. And he saw me, spoke some things over me, and then passed away. And then apparently I'm a spitting image of him. So obviously Nigerians become very superstitious, and our superstition is something that, because all black people are from Africa, it's something that we've passed on, we've taken wherever we are in the world. That's our superstitious nature has followed us.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know,
Mm-hmm.
people were afraid because they were saying, well, what did he speak over this child and then you know, suddenly he passed away. It may have been, I believe it was a blessing. He spoke a blessing over me, and then he felt free to give up the ghost, and that was it. Some people were like, oh my gosh, did he try and put his own spirit in the child? And I was like, nah, come on, man. Chill, yo. Miss me with that.
That's how we do.
I'm like, miss me with that mess. But the reality of it is that, you know, I do find it fascinating that people say that I'm a spitting image of him.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows what God spoke to him
Mm-hmm.
about the great-grandchild that had been born? Who knows?
Yeah.
And it's an interesting thing. And this is someone I know very little about.
Mm-hmm.
Again, he is a footnote in my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But there is something about his life that is connected to mine. There was a reason why he didn't die until he had met me, held me, and gotten to say a blessing over me.
Mm-hmm.
So when we play our position, when we understand who we're supposed to be, sometimes, like you say, that footnote that we are may be for people that that will never even remember us.
Mm-hmm.
We were just there to do something at a certain time, so that something we were setting up the pins to be knocked down 50, 60, 70 years in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we have to be comfortable with that.
Yeah. And that's the so I'm gonna say this, I put the documentary on the ballot is one thing you need to do, because I want to watch it. I feel like this a whole documentary I could watch, like on Netflix or something like that.
Let's speak that into existence.
Yeah, we go speak that. I can see that. You know, but it made me think about this show, and I'm always watching genealogy shows, but this is a new one, and I saw it on Hulu. I think I think the first season is done with now. I can't remember if it's on ABC, NBC, something like that. But the reruns are on Hulu. It's called, I just put it up. Roots Less Travel. That's the name of it, Roots Less Travel. Right. So they had different families and stuff like that. What they do at the beginning, they take like an ancestry DNA test, kind of see where, kind of go through their family history, find documents, different things, and kind of connect some dots. And then they go to different sites that their ancestors, you know, lived or, you know, resided around and things of that nature. So it was this black family. It was the aunt and the nephew that went. And I think they came to Nashville, I want to say. But so in the US with records, the records, as you go farther back in time, you can only pretty much go every 10 years by the census.
Right.
If your ancestors were enslaved, after you go past, I think it's 1920 or 1910, they don't have names. So they're like initials. And so it's harder to then identify who was where, or the census might have been just at the plantation. So then it's harder to kind of track. But if your ancestors were free, they will exist. They probably can exist all the way back to like 1880 or 1860 or something like that if they were free. And so one of the things they found out about their family is that their slave owner gave them freedom because they were such good, like the father, grandfather, whatever, like that, was so diligent in his work that the plantation owner was about to die. He then willed the house and the land to the slave and gave them their freedom, which was unheard of. Like, that doesn't happen. And then he actually had a son, so he didn't will.
Oh, wow!
He had a son, but he didn't give it. I think he gave the son something else, but the main house and all the land was given to this man, this former slave, and like his family. And the brother, they kind of contested. They had to go to court, and then it went all the way to like the court in Nashville or something. And they granted that. They were saying, like, even though he was viewed as a slave, they viewed him as a person, and so he had the right to have the land and stuff. So they actually took them to the land. So they actually got to see. They're like, because they're like, well, all we do, like, this is your ancestors' land. Like, this is the land that they were receiving. And they were like, can we take stuff from it? So they got like jars and put like dirt and grass and stuff of the land to take back with them home, so they could tell like they found this stuff. And I thought that was a real cool moment where you could actually go back to the place where like your ancestors were, like they were raised and they came from, and all that kind of stuff. So it's a good good episode. And I think it's like 30 minutes long, but it's cool. I think it's like the 6th episode, I want to say. I don't know. Don't quote me on it, but you know, if you roll through and you see the black people, you know, that's the
I'm gonna check that out. So listen.
Yeah.
We have rolled through this episode quicker than I thought we were gonna. There was so much more to be said, but being diligent and being true to keep into time, because that's we ain't trying to do no black people time. So
CP time.
So we're gonna keep it on track. But before we kind of sign this off, you asked me, you said I should talk about VFIT. So VFIT is a vision that we had. And funny enough, when we started to think about VFIT was, so for people that know me personally, you will know that how many years ago? Well, for me, it's been about 6-7 year journey of going from being an omnivore to a pure vegan diet. I've been on a pure vegan diet for probably about 2.5-3 years now. It's, again, massive transformational change. Definitely a lot of clarity for me. Now, I do not have an issue with anyone that eats meat. That's your prerogative. I'm talking about what works for me, what was personally good for my own personal health and my own personal journey. But so the V in VFIT comes from that. Originally, when we started to think about VFIT, it's centered around our love for fitness and exercise and nutrition. And it still does to a certain extent. But VFIT was an organization we started to think about when we realized there was something missing about personal fitness. Everyone either focused on nutrition, or some people focused on nutrition. I'd say the majority, the masses, focused on fitness, on physical activity. But everyone knows the saying that abs are made in the kitchen. So we know that there's a nutritional side to it. We wanted to give people that view of, well, firstly, we can help you with the fitness because I'm a certified personal trainer. My wife is a certified personal trainer. So we can help you with the fitness, but that is not our primary focus. Our focus is about creating holistic well-being, especially for couples. The more we talk about what we want VFit to be, we realized that our calling, our purpose as a couple is to help other couples. Again, people that don't know about my marriage history, I was married at the age of 23. My wife was 22. A lot of people thought it was a shotgun wedding. People were there waiting to see a baby. Like, oh, she's gonna be pregnant. That's what people. Even one of my aunts pulled me to the side and said to me, "Are you marrying her because she's pregnant?" And I was like, "No." Mm-hmm. So but I got married young, and we went through a massive learning curve. Within the first year of marriage, we were already thinking about, should we call this quits? Because this ain't what I signed up for. So, but then we had to make that decision about growing together and taking those key steps to learn and develop. So we invested a lot of time in reading books about marriage, not just from a Christian perspective, but from any perspective we could get. We read books about sex. We read books about communication. We basically educated ourselves on every angle that we felt we needed to know to have a healthy marriage. So when the nutritional change came for me, naturally, I spoke to my wife about it, and then we talked to our children about it, and we all shifted together. When we developed a passion for fitness, again, we trained together. So everything we do as a couple, we do together. That's not to say we don't have our individual interests in everything, but at the core of it, the strength of our marriage is in the unity. So VFit was born out of that. And the vision for VFit is to see healthier marriages, healthier relationships, healthier couples, not just from an interpersonal. And this is kind of where the book comes from, the book on biblical marriage. But that's my book that I'm working on. That's part of the whole package. But the book is a part of it. We're hoping to do seminars, and we're going to hope, by God's grace, we will be working with iProgress to pull together seminars about relationships and couples therapy and all those kind of things, but in a new and dynamic way. We want to introduce cooking segments that teach people that want to take go on a vegan journey how to do so. And maybe it's about introducing vegan recipes into your life as a couple, because doing it individually is a very difficult thing. When you live with someone that is still an omnivore and you're a vegan, it is a very, very difficult thing to do. So even if you just want to reduce the amount of meat and things that you do, or you just want to experience healthier eating together as a couple, that's one of the things we want to try and help people with. And then the other part is about spiritual spiritual health, spiritual fitness. So VFit is about physical fitness through nutrition and diet, mental fitness from working with people like Terrence and iProgress to help you develop mental well-being. Our podcast is centered, our new podcast, I'm gonna plug it right now. It's called Free Kids.
Go ahead.
It's called Free Kids Later. So, and it's basically talking about, so we've been together over 20 years. We are free kids later. How have we kept the magic alive? you know, is there still magic? You know, spoiler alert, yeah, there is. So, but you know, the reality of it is you know, we want to talk about mental well-being in relationships, because we can do a lot of damage to each other mentally. So we want to talk about how you stay so connected and you have that communication working to deal with that. And then finally, we're also available to help people with their physical fitness as a couple. And that's an area we're still refining and working on, but we'll be coming up with programs and things like that to help people with their physical fitness and stuff like that. So that's V-Fit as a whole. There are different components to it. Different components will come at different times. Right now, the first part we were focusing on is that relationship and well-being for people in terms of via the podcast. So yeah, that's V-Fit in a nutshell.
See, I'm so glad that I asked him to go through that. Didn't y'all want to hear that? I know you did. I know you did. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Oh man, so Terrence, I'm gonna put you on the spot now. Tell the people what you got coming up in the next few months via iProgress. And personally.
Okay, so we are about 90% done. We are almost ready to launch these classes. And so we will do one about healthy relationships. That'll be done by my business partner, Dr. Bailey. And then I'll be doing two. I may do three, but it's one about jumpstart your life. So it's basically what you need to do to kind of start making changes in your life. And then one will be called deconstruct your life, where we look at your patterns that's holding you back. Like, what are the limiting beliefs you have around your abilities, your visions for things, the desires you want, and even, you know, for us career-wise, how did you get here, and how do you deconstruct those things to get the lessons you need to prepare for the future? So that's so those things I'm excited about. We are looking to do some other collaborations with some organizations. So hopefully by the end of this week, I will have some kind of announcement around.
Okay.
That could be very, very beneficial for us. It could be like a capstone kind of collaboration for the business. Definitely could be a big thing for us. Awesome. So I know more about that this week. Also, I am getting into the next phase with the book. I have a lot of ideas that now I can do it the way I want to. So the way I explain it is the dream journey, which will be comprised of 5 separate mini books. But it will be what I term a multi-sensory experience. So it won't just be words, but it'll be things that you can listen to, things you can watch, things you can actively do that will help you prepare for the whole journey of taking your dream from an idea to manifestation and what that looks like in real time, but doing it in a narrative way. So it's more of a story instead of just me talking about figures and what this researcher said about this and this theory and whatever like that. It's real practical about what did this journey look like doing the very thing you feel called and led to do, and what's the challenges and how you can hold yourself back at certain points because of your own, you know, fear or disbelief or lack of confidence, or just all different things that kind of come up from internally that could be barriers for you. So I'm working on that, and hopefully, you know, and then I keep pushing it back, but I'm pushing it back because I'm trying to get everything together. But then I will have my own podcast soon, and it'll be more interview style. So I'll be interviewing people about, you know, them overcoming different situation challenges in their life, how they're giving back to their community, what's some positive things think that's something in my beard. That's on flu. I'm like, what is that in my beard? Random. Sorry. That's random. Sorry. I am working on that. I kind of have some guests lined up already, but I wanted to be people that really could inspire other people.
Yeah.
That you can really hear their story and say, like, man, that happened to them, or they had this situation happen, but they still went through it with a positive, attitude, and then they're looking to help people that have been in similar situations. So I'm looking to do it in a season format. So probably about 8 episodes in the first season, but the theme would be overcoming or overcomers. So people that have had real life situations happen and how they overcame them, and then the lesson that they got from it. So that's me.
Okay. See, you had a lot to tell the people. There's a lot of stuff coming. There's a lot of exciting stuff. So I'm super excited about all the stuff you got going on as well, and I can't wait to hear what the announcement will be.
Yeah.
I
can probably tell you off camera. I can't say
okay. But so let's give the people a little something on how to connect with us. So tell the people how to get in touch with you, where they can connect with you at.
Okay. The best way to reach me is at our main email address, info@iprogresscc.com, or you can go to our website, www.iprogress.cc. We are doing some renovations to the site. So if you look at it now, it will look a little different, hopefully in another week, with submitting changes now that our web design is doing, corresponding to the next things we have coming up. And then, like I said, every Monday and Thursday, please check us out on at iProgressCC on Facebook. We go live every Monday and Thursday at 12 Central Standard Time. So I know, depending on where you're listening to this from, you might be in a different time zone.
Yeah.
So, but that's when we go live. I know David catches them a lot, and we have good conversation. If you like these conversations that me and David have, we have just add 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, that's what it is. So we have a good time on there. We just have fun, but in a way that's informative, insightful, and empowering the people about real life situations and about purpose in life and anything else that we pretty much go through. We try and bring it into a format where we get different perspectives on how we can be better people. So definitely do that. Those are the better ways to contact us. And then it should be something on our website shortly if people want to do life excavation sessions with me. I had one last week that was really well. Somebody that's an artist, so kind of talk about his art and how to rebrand himself as the artist and his work. And so that was good. So if you need excavation, I am available for that. I'm rolling. I'm just starting that off the ground, but it is starting. So I'm enjoying it. It's definitely something I'm real excited about, and it's I just like people getting to where they want to get to. So I'll pass it to you.
Okay. So as usual, people, you can connect with me via, the most prominent thing for me is Instagram. So at DY Daley on Instagram. You can send me messages, whatever. You can connect with me on Twitter at DY Daley on Twitter as well. You can go visit the Facebook page, so www.facebook.com/Daley Perspective. You can hit the blog, www.daleyperspective.co.uk. And also, obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, and I forgot to shout out the YouTube family. So Shout out to the YouTube family.
Yeah.
But if you're watching this on YouTube, obviously it's www.youtube.com/Daley Perspective. You've got the usual Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts. Basically all those platforms the podcast is live on, and we are going live on many more. We're going to keep coming to you wherever we can. And that's about it, really. I want to thank everyone for listening to this episode. We are truly enjoying bringing you these conversations, these sessions. We really hope that they are beneficial to you. We really hope that people are getting things out of them, because we certainly get stuff out of each conversation. As I've said it on numerous occasions, we talk outside of this, but when we get on camera, when we get in front of the microphones and we start talking, we still learn stuff from each other.
Yep.
So we love what we're bringing to you. We're going to continue to keep bringing these to you. And we are grateful that you choose to spend your time with us, and you choose to continue joining us. So we appreciate that. So I'm gonna wrap this up as we normally do by reminding you that Christianity is a personal walk and relationship between you and God. You are not, will not, and never will be perfect, but that's okay. God loves you and wants you to come just as you are. His grace covers all. Live free from condemnation and do not crucify yourself. Be renewed by the grace of God through Christ Jesus and become who you were created to be. And with that, I am Mr. Daley signing off. And
Terrence Johnson.
There he is. Dr. Johnson, y'all. And yeah, so we are signing off, and we wish you all the best. Stay safe. The pandemic is real. It's still out there. Our thoughts are with everyone that is suffering from the pandemic, those who have lost their lives, and all of those. Our thoughts are with their families. Please, people, wash your hands regularly, wear your mask, be as safe as possible. And with that being said, we will catch you on the next episode. Peace.
All right.